So originally I was going to discuss the pandering that Disney pretty much inflicted on Lucasfilm and Star Wars as a whole with the terrible sequel trilogy, 7, 8, and 9. And I was also going to talk about the fact that Kanye West and Joe Rogan on the Rogan podcast literally talked about how George Lucas was everything right about Star Wars, and that Disney just simply doesn't understand what Star Wars just means to him, but what it means to everyone who's fallen in love with the saga and the lore as a whole as well. But I figured that that video would be way too long and there would be so much to talk about there, so I decided to wait for that and do it on another day. So I'm still going to talk about Star Wars, but today I'm going to talk about the literature aspect of it and where their future seems to be moving forward. And now there's a lot of questions that come up with that, is if it's just going to stay as books and comic books and maybe move into a TV show or movies, or depending on fan reaction, if it will just stay what it is as of now, just a small book series. This is just a small synopsis of what is to be expected moving forward into their next set of events, Star Wars: The High Republic. And this is what it says here. The galaxy is at peace, ruled by the glorious Republic and protected by the noble and wise Jedi Knights. As a symbol of all that is good, the Republic is about to launch Starlight Beacon into the far reaches of the Outer Rim. This new space station will serve as a ray of hope for all to see. But just as a magnificent renaissance spreads through the Republic, so does a frightening new adversary. Now, the guardians of peace and justice must face a threat to themselves: the galaxy and the Force itself. It should also be added that it also says here, it shows the Jedi at the height of their power and the rise of the Nihil, I would assume is how you pronounce it. Nihil. A couple of things I've heard about this new series of events is this beacon of hope, this massive station that they're deploying into the Outer Rim. It almost seems like a citadel, and it is the Jedi's way of basically showing that we are at the height of our power. The whole galaxy should know we are here. We are here to protect and serve. We serve the Jedi way, we serve the light side way. Now, this is their efforts to expand into regions of the galaxy that Jedi are either scarcely there or not there at all in general. Now, this Nihil, or Nil, however we should be pronouncing this villain's name, they are, as from what I've heard, space Vikings. And it's interesting. I think space Vikings has a role to play in Star Wars somewhere. I'm very cautious on how space Vikings fare against Jedis, and I think as a whole I am very skeptical about what this High Republic is going to be about. The fact that this is only 200 years prior to the Phantom Menace. As far as the Jedis are concerned, there is no rule of two. There is no power of the Sith. No Sith exist during this time at the height of their reign. And simply, how much trust do I put into Disney creating a brand new series of Star Wars literature and Star Wars content for fans of Star Wars who were ultimately disappointed by the sequel trilogy? Now, they've been showing off artwork of all the Jedis that we can expect in the upcoming books, and some of the villains that we can expect to read about as well. But I think the most interesting one is Yoda. We got some art of what Yoda looks like back in the High Republic, because that makes sense. By the High Republic's time, if it's only 200 years prior to Phantom Menace, Yoda is about 600 to 700 years old. Now, this is where a lot of people, I do believe, get confused, is that during Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith, everyone views Yoda as he was the Grand Master of that time, but truthfully, I don't believe he was. It was actually Mace Windu. Now, Mace Windu may have held Grand Master title at the time, but at the end of the day, I don't think there was any beating Yoda. Yoda was just at the all-time powerful height of his Force abilities. And he was just the wisest Jedi that many have ever seen, probably within the past couple thousand years, if maybe not a little bit more. But where I find this interesting is that now 200 years prior to the Phantom Menace, this maybe makes me question on whether or not Yoda was really ever the Grand Master. And he must have been a Grand Master at a specific time, but the question is what time exactly and for how long, because they've already announced that in the High Republic it is indeed another Jedi who is the Grand Master. And I mean, when you look at human years, of course, 200 years from the High Republic to now the Phantom Menace is definitely a long time. That's at least 4 of your potential family members growing up and dying of old age. 200 years is a long time, but if you look at a species like Yoda, Yoda lived for 900 years, so 200 years is really just the beginning stages of his life. So being 600 years old, the fact that Yoda isn't the Grand Master, and then 200 years later, the Phantom Menace kicks in, I wonder if these books will somehow lead into Yoda's potential promotion to the Grand Master, as he should be, or if Yoda really only maintained the title of Grand Master for only a little amount of time before he felt like he got too old and he had to relay it to someone else, or if Yoda was never the Grand Master at all and here is Disney trying to change something else that fans will only just inevitably get very angry with at the end of the day. Now, a little bit about the Space Vikings, and I've seen some artwork of what the Vikings look like, and they look pretty cool. They look like another sect of bounty hunters who are just trying to take what they think is theirs, or they're just trying to fight off of what they think the tyranny of the Jedi truly are. Now, my question is, as the Jedi are clearly peaceful people, they do not want war, even though come episode 2 and 3 they jumped right into the war of the Clone Wars with the Separatists, and that really backfired on them. But what I really want to know is, how could these villains potentially rival the Jedi? There's something I think we should all understand about the Force, is that become more powerful enough and smart enough in the Force, I do believe that Jedis should be capable of moving mountains and doing things that are incapable to anyone else in the galaxy. In a lot of ways, they have to be looked at as gods or legends, someone who just can't be rivaled on their potential amount of power. And I think that's what makes a Jedi, and especially a Sith who takes the easy path to that power, that's what makes them so interesting. You have a massive galaxy of secrets and myths and technology and alien races who are all capable of doing so many things, and in the midst of them all you have the religion of the Jedi and the cult of the Sith. They are just 2 of the same people on different sides of one coin that are capable of doing things that you would really think only gods would be capable of doing. So in this situation, how are a group of what would be space Vikings going to challenge the Jedi in abilities that they probably cannot even comprehend of using, but also the fact that they are going to challenge their ability in using the Force. Now, years ago, before Disney bought Lucasfilm and Star Wars, they were creating more EU content, the extended universe, and they were building stories about what happens after Return of the Jedi. There is this really interesting comic series called the Yuuzhan Vong War, and they are a group of aliens that actually came from another galaxy, and as Jedis in the Republic prepared for war against these alien invaders, they realized that the Force does not work against them. There is a boundary between their biology and the galaxy of Star Wars. And I also believe that lightsabers did not work properly in that case as well. I don't think lightsabers could cut through them, and I think the weapons that the Vong wielded could also combat a lightsaber as well. So why I mention that is, could the Space Vikings possibly be taking some of the written literature of the Yuuzhan Vong War and be transferring it over to the High Republic? Now, whether or not that these Space Vikings or these bounty hunters or mercenaries are actually the Yuuzhan Vong from another galaxy, I highly doubt they would take it to that extent, considering when you look at the bigger picture, 200 years, like I said, is not a far distance between the High Republic and the Phantom Menace. So if you are involving alien races coming from other galaxies and invading their home, especially if you're someone like Yoda, I don't think 200 years would be enough time to make you think, remember when those random aliens came from another galaxy and tried to invade us? Those were the days. I don't really think that's going to happen, especially that's a huge issue. Imagine us being in a situation where we could galactically travel and we lived in harmony with not just humans or maybe other alien races who live in the Milky Way, and one day we get intercepted by another alien race who is now invading the Milky Way. That would change history as we know it. So I don't believe that's the route they're going to take in the High Republic, but is there maybe a way that they are using weapons, ancient weapons or technology that is actually combating the Force, and they're not capable of using Force abilities on these enemies, and that's what makes them a viable threat. Another thing I do need to mention, and this is probably the last thing I'll mention, is simply the time era it takes place. I've already mentioned 200 years prior to Phantom Menace multiple times now. That's probably imprinted in your brain by now. My point is you have thousands and tens of thousands and potentially even hundreds of thousands of years to play within the Star Wars lore, the Star Wars galaxy. And you have so many Jedis and Siths that you can use and create stories about. There are so many characters that Disney has made non-canon, and if you don't know what non-canon means, it means they don't really exist anymore within the lore of what they create now. They have listed so many of these really amazing characters, such as Darth Bane and Revan, as non-canon, even though when Rise of Skywalker came out, I do believe they officially canonized them. And I mean, this will come in another video too, but I have Revan's lightsaber, so they definitely canonized him again. But you have so many rich histories and so many rich characters you could have dived into that all took place thousands and thousands of years, and events that took place thousands and thousands of years prior to the Skywalker saga, 1 through 6, and if you want to incorporate them, 7, 8, and 9. What I question is why only 200 years before the Phantom Menace? Why such a short amount of time before one of the biggest events in Star Wars history comes into play? The fall of Anakin Skywalker into Darth Vader and the rule of Emperor Palpatine and the Empire. And at the end of the day, if these space pirates really are not utilizing weapons or ancient technology or some sort of power that will rival the Jedi in a Sidious type of way, will the Sith in the background, because if you know Star Wars enough outside of 1 through 6, you know that the Sith were hiding. They were in the Outer Rim, they were in the unknown regions, and they were spying on the galaxy. They were spying on the Jedi, waiting for their right time to strike. Palpatine's master, Snoke. Yo, I almost said Snoke. Sorry, I have this really strong belief that Snoke should have been Darth Plagueis. That makes me sick. I feel like I've just betrayed myself in Star Wars as a whole. If you all know, Plagueis, which was Emperor Palpatine's master, he was hiding in the shadows, waiting for his time to strike against the Jedi. Now, his story is another one who is unfortunately legends now. He is not canon. To maybe bring Darth Plagueis back into the events of the High Republic, that would be interesting. Now we would possibly be able to see how Plagueis would eventually find Palpatine, maybe 100 years down the road, 150 years down the road. We would also see how he is already planning on taking the Jedi down with patience and simply in due time with their unfortunate unraveling. And maybe the fact that Plagueis could sense through the Force that someone like an Anakin Skywalker would rise to power with his future apprentice. We could even get Plagueis' master, which was Darth Tenebris. Darth Tenebris, or maybe Plagueis, either one of them, it does not matter. They are both aliens, so they could both potentially live longer than humans. Maybe they are finding a way to work with these space Vikings or control these space Vikings and rival them against the Jedi. And maybe that's why they have power that the Jedi cannot seem to comprehend, or not even that they can't comprehend, but they can't simply fight against them the way they would a normal mercenary. But once again, it is simply the time. It's the era of which it takes place. You had a fantastic Darth Plagueis novel that came out years ago, and you decanonized it. You made it Legends. It would be so much more simple if you could take one of the best Star Wars books ever created, Darth Plagueis, and simply make it canon. This way, you could potentially avoid a High Republic scenario of what they're creating right now, and go back to the time that everyone really wants them to go back to, the Old Republic. In the Old Republic, you have so many strong Jedis and Siths with compelling stories, fantastic fight scenes, knowledge into what the Force truly is, army against army, and they simply just don't give us what we want. And I do believe there is a little bit of fear. A fear of that they do not know how to control the Force. They do not know how to make someone more powerful than who we already know. And that being Anakin and Vader, the Chosen one of the most powerful beings the Star Wars galaxy will probably ever see. That is where I believe they are wrong. You can take your stories to thousands of years in the past or thousands of years in the future, and you can create characters who have that type of power without even needing to regard Anakin Skywalker or Luke Skywalker or Emperor Palpatine in that specific story. They have nothing to do with it. Their legacies will not coincide with the Skywalker saga characters' legacies. What George Lucas has created is what he has created. You are capable of creating stories so far out of that realm that you can create new legacies now and new power and new strengths. But now you make a story like the High Republic, which really takes place in the realm of that Skywalker saga, because the Skywalker saga only takes place, well, as you know, 200 years later. So the High Republic is still playing within that field of the Chosen One. But the High Republic could end up being a great series of books and a great series of events. It could be very exciting to read, and there could be some very vital information that is revealed in the High Republic. Now, I once again am very skeptical on anything Disney kind of puts their hands on with Star Wars, other than The Mandalorian, which is clearly a fantastic TV show, and season 2 just premiered today. So if you've seen season 1, make sure you watch season 2 today. If you haven't watched season 1, well, make sure you binge it, start season 2 now. So if you know much about Star Wars and if you follow Star Wars often, let me know in the comments below whether or not you think the High Republic is a good idea, or if you agree with me and you are a little bit cautious on it. But right now, I'm gonna go watch Mandalorian season 2, and I hope you do the same. Enjoy, guys.